The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
The Full Melt. New at 5, some new studies on marijuana, including its effects on driving.
Researchers say the drug impairs driving similar to that of a drunk driver. Eyewitness News reporter Colleen Sullivan is here now with more on the results of these studies. Colleen.
Michelle and Mark, not only do researchers say marijuana use slows reaction time in drivers, one study points out that medical marijuana is not as beneficial for certain ailments than previously thought.
You're looking at a driver under the influence of marijuana. The driver weaves while trying to stay within his lane. Now, a first-of-its-kind study reveals marijuana use does impair driving performance.
One of the things we know happens with cannabis is that it reduces your field of vision, and you get tunnel vision, so you're unable to react as quickly.
The effects of marijuana were studied using the National Driving Simulator, the most sophisticated driving simulator of its kind. The study also says combining cannabis with alcohol adds to the driver's impairment.
Driving is a very complex task, and this is why cannabis, both alone and with alcohol, it's so dangerous to drive.
Also today, the first comprehensive analysis of medical marijuana's potential benefits. The research finding medical marijuana can help chronic pain and muscle stiffness and multiple sclerosis. But there is weak evidence it helps with other conditions like anxiety, sleep disorders, and Tourette's syndrome. Edible products also come under scrutiny. Researchers evaluated nearly 50 brands of medical marijuana products, including candy, baked goods, and drinks bought at dispensaries, including here in Los Angeles. They found a majority had inaccurate amounts of THC listed on many products. Almost 1 in 4 had higher amounts than labeled, which could cause ill effects. But most had lower than listed amounts, meaning users might get no effect.
Researchers behind most of the studies say more analysis needs to be done. And today, the Department of Health and Human Services made it a little easier for privately funded medical marijuana research to get approved. Reporting live, Colleen Sullivan, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Coming to you live from the Canalock.com No Smell Bag Studios. It is another edition of the Full Melt Show. Thank you for joining us today. Oh boy, I rub my grubby little hands together every day. Every single day when I sit down behind this microphone, I am rubbing my hands together because there is so much going on. So glad we brought this show to a daily program. I'm just saying. In the longer scheme, in the broader scheme, the wider scheme, doing this show on a daily basis makes a lot of sense. And it seems that I'm not the only one. There are other people out there starting to pick up on this daily marijuana point of view. So many people don't understand about this subject, and it's easy not to understand about a subject like this when you have confusion in the marketplace. And let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen listening to this program, that's exactly what has been planned all along. I'm just saying, I know enough information about the history of this issue and about the subject in general to tell you, from an insider's point of view, not from somebody who's got a marijuana insider's point of view, but somebody who's got a historical and a journalistic insider's point of view. It just comes from a previous experience, not having anything to do with the cannabis community. I've got this different view than other people have access to, being a member of the traditional media for so long. I still consider myself a member of the mainstream media, even though this program deals with that subject in specific. That this marketplace has been planned. Planed. Planned. It's something that a lot of people don't understand, that they don't know about, and I don't want to go into a great deal of discussion about. We'll get into that another day. But be it known to all of our listeners that the people, I don't know, I guess the best way to say this is that the people who did this planning have an intent to confuse the marketplace, because the more you're confused about this, and believe false arguments or arguments that seem like they're realistic ones because, tangibly to you, they are realistic arguments. But when you step back and take a broader view, these are false arguments made to tie up your time. They already know where this marketplace is going to go. They did some 35 years ago when they started planning this marketplace. And when I mean they, I'm talking about business. Business was trying to find a way around this prohibition. There were people making money off the prohibition. And so the confusion in the marketplace is just being produced by the federal government, in this case, the National Institute of Drug Abuse. It's NIDA. All of the information quoted in the news piece that preceded my voice on this program. I think the station comes out of California, this ABC affiliate. All of that information the reporter talked about came from NIDA. It's the government organization designed to get rid of drug abuse. In the long run, that's what that organization is charged with doing. It's providing information about drug abuse. And so it's very strange, I would say. It's extremely strange that, you've got studies being produced by an organization like this, understanding from whence the study comes. Remember, studies are done because they're paid for. In this case, they were paid for by the federal government for the purpose of highlighting issues surrounding drug abuse, in this instance, marijuana. And the study that they produced talked about driving. Now, it's not in the interest of or the benefit of NIDA, who has a self-fulfilling interest in giving themselves a reason to exist inside a federal government that wants to contract. NIDA needs to prove that it needs to be there with issues like this that are meaningful, that have impact, outside of the little ancillary drug issues, the smaller drug issues. They're strong ones, but they're smaller on a larger scale use-wise. The biggest illegal drug used in this country is cannabis. And so it's not only in the interest of NIDA to put this kind of information out, it's also what they're charged with doing. I would say that the skew of the news piece on this subject by this reporter at this station, and again, I'm just assuming because it's got a K in front of it, so I know it's on the west. It's on the west side of the Mississippi. This station. That's all I can know for sure because I didn't look them up. But this reporter took all of this information from NIDA and ran with it as if it was unbiased. In fact, they didn't even reference the fact that NIDA was the one that was producing the information they were referencing, just this study. They didn't even call it a government study in this news piece. I challenge you to rewind the tape and see if you could find a place where they said government study. They don't even reveal that in the news story. So it kind of upsets me because it seems like, if I'm willing to talk about that, somebody's, a regular news outlet should be a little more rounded in talking about something, even in the confined space they've got to talk about it in television news. It's got to be under 2 minutes, generally. Unless it's, bleeding, they can spend a little more time on it if it's bleeding. If it's got a lot of blood attached to it, they'll spend the whole day on it. But if it's not bleeding, they got 2 minutes. That's the most you're going to get in TV news to talk about any story, even a local one. Again, unless it's live and bleeding. This is not live or bleeding. It's a ages long story. It just needs focused on. And people are discovering the focus of this over time as the medical marijuana issue has made them familiar with a subject they previously had only been told about and had no experience with. In fact, I would agree with the people that say the medical marijuana issue was only designed to make people more familiar with marijuana as a way to get marijuana in general legalized. I would say that's entirely a plausible argument. I'm not going to say that it's not. I think that the insiders will talk about this in the same way. There's no question that that's what this is. It's the only way that you can get the massive public familiar with the truth around the subject of cannabis because it's been so lied about so horribly. And And the fact that it's got such great potential in the medical arena and also offsets a lot of other much worse social consequence with regards to other drug use when cannabis is not available or there is no safe access made available to it, that's a significant thing to think about. So I think when you're talking about driving, and I think most people would agree with me. I think most experts would agree with me. When you talk about driving, it isn't cool to ever drive impaired under any circumstances, by any substance. This is just simple common sense. The question is, what is impairment? I'd love to sit here with an attorney. It seems like a lot of attorneys don't have a lot of time to occupy themselves on radio stations. They're busy usually working on a client's case, working on the aftermath of a client's case, chasing after a client to collect money from them. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I certainly have that capacity, but would never probably. I would excel as an attorney. I'll tell you that. I'm a bulldog. If I know that there's something to be proven, I'll find a way to bring it to light of day as evidence in court. I'm really good at that kind of stuff. That's what I do as a journalist. I mean, that's what we do, is seek the truth. It's supposed to be what the court seeks, but they don't. The court always doesn't seek the truth. The people who are in charge of prosecuting cases in criminal matters are more interested in what benefits them as a politician, because you got to remember the prosecutor and the sheriff, at least in Michigan and in many other places, they're politicians. They're elected representatives. You have to vote for these people. And they need to be able to prove that they did a good job if they intend to get voted for again in that same position, or in the event that they might want to move up in the world of politics, have a good record to do so. So I'd love to get some attorneys on to talk about what is impairment. Because with alcohol, most states have kind of flushed it out over the years. And it's just a recent flush out, too. It's really been a long time coming. But they've kind of flushed it out that 08 is what we determine based on scientific evidence as proof of impairment with regards to a blood alcohol level content. So if you've got an alcohol content in your blood of 0.08 or higher, you're considered to be impaired. The question would be, and still remains, because alcohol and marijuana act totally differently. And when you talk about resistance to the effects of marijuana through use, impairment is even harder to achieve with the same level of intoxication, quote unquote, the same level of substance. More coming up next after this.
You're getting the full melt.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas, probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power Monster Aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
This summer, discover the one place where your family will create unforgettable memories. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome Welcome to Jurassic World. Rated PG-13.
Get the beach bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in McGrill, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at travelcannabiscup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at travelcannabiscup.com.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. Hey, so I wanted to make sure I did a shout out to my friend Puff Danny, who's got a great event coming out in August. It is Puff Danny's Glass Boutique presenting Puffapalooza. It is a live event, music, mostly a lot of music, lighting by Light Show Bob. And you got Dogface Gremlin, you got The Alchemist, you got LZ, The Hombres. Oh, my goodness, all kinds of stuff. Degata, Aztec and the Barfly, Jeremiah Ferguson, I Am Trouble, DJ Alex V, and more. Pine Hollow Golf Course, 500 Trailer Park Drive, Jackson, Michigan, gates at 11, music at noon. Saturday, August 8th. They got VIP tickets available, limited campsites. You can do all kinds of stuff because there'll be vendors, a full bar, disc golf, and a disc golf tournament happening on Sunday at $10 per person with a cart. Live glass blowing on the premises. Tickets available now at puffapalooza.brownpapertickets.com. And Puff Danny's Glass Boutique, which is, of course, at 3383 Port Street in Wyandotte, Michigan. So I had to give you that. Please join us over there for that. There's a lot of good stuff happening out there. You'll meet a lot of great people. You have a great time with the music. And, of course, I believe we're going to be out there. That would be awesome. See you out there. So we've been talking about this driving thing, and I don't know. I think, is this Rick Thompson? Hello, are you there?
I sure am, Steve. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Listen, thanks for calling the program. It's kind of frustrating when you see major reports from television outlets slanted by the lack of their own journalistic integrity of at least reporting the full facts, which would reveal that the National Institute of Drug Abuse are the people that did the study. I mean, they didn't even reveal this in the story, which particularly peeves me.
Yeah, I think anytime you want to talk about surveys or polls, it behooves the listener to ask questions about what was the size of the sample, how was it conducted, what was the reputation of the polling service themselves. When you talk about the NIDA, their mandate is to find drug harm, not to find drug benefit. So you have to assume that polls that are released by that particular source are, to say the least, slanted, if not completely useless.
Well, I mean, at least they're at least you've got to reveal the source of the poll. I mean, that's the whole point of the poll.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to rely on this entirely for your story, because they didn't even talk just about that. They also said, hey, similar studies were found to say that marijuana isn't as effective on some illnesses as they thought it might be.
So it seems almost like they were just reading a press release from the prohibitionist point of view, don't you think?
Well, that's who they are. They are the prohibitionist point of view. It's the National Institute of Drug Abuse.
Yeah, but the media should be reporting it in a fair way. They should give a balanced viewpoint.
Correct.
And they should offer, both sides of the argument instead of favoring one over the other.
Well, this business about impairment and of course, marijuana is going to affect an ability to drive. The question is, when does that become a problem for your driving? I mean, it is not going to be right away, and it's going to be up until a certain point. And that's the point at which, just like alcohol, you should be responsible for operating while impaired. That's the point at which you're being irresponsible.
You're absolutely right, Stephen. What we've learned with the alcohol model is that using a flat rate like a 5% blood alcohol content or an 8% blood alcohol content is really not a fair standard to apply. On the roadside, law enforcement officers have the ability to determine impairment using techniques and skills that they are developed, called the drug recognition expert skills. They don't have to have a blood draw to determine your level of THC. If you're acting like you're impaired, then they have a reason to believe that. If you're not acting impaired, it doesn't matter how much THC you have in your system.
Or any substance, for that matter. If you're not impaired, you're not impaired. I mean, duh.
Right, yeah, but to determine impairment by a chemical content, not by the behavior of the individual, is an incorrect standard to apply.
You know why? Because it's a lot easier to apply. It's a lot easier to say the chemical is present than it is to say impairment is present.
Well, here's what you have to think. If there's a police officer on the side of the road, he sees somebody, he stops them, decides that they're not a threat, he lets them go. 10 minutes later, they get into a horrible automobile accident where they were smashed up and kill people, and then it's determined that they had a certain percentage of some substance in their body. That police officer has a level of guilt or liability involved in it, and I think a lot of times they do these things to absolve police officers from responsibility. I'm not interested in sacrificing citizens' rights or freedoms in order to do something like that.
Here's another way that those statistics are highly skewed, Rick. Of course, everybody knows about the alcohol dangers. We've all been told about and seen the drastic results of people drinking and driving, being impaired. People do silly, stupid things when they're drinking and driving. That you don't see that happening with people with cannabis. Generally, because they're more afraid to get behind the wheel if they're super messed up than if they'd be afraid of it. I mean, people on alcohol have bravado, not fear. Generally speaking, of course. But you don't see that for the most part in cannabis users. Now, that's not to say that somebody who wasn't impaired couldn't get behind the wheel or maybe wouldn't get behind the wheel. It's much less likely, in my opinion. I think that would be borne out with reasonable statistics being put together by reasonable people. But the idea that you should just apply a chemical standard, a numerical number, and apply it across the board is absolutely, in my opinion, if you'll excuse the expression, because it certainly isn't politically correct, but I never claimed it to be, retarded. It's a retarded idea. I mean, it's a stupid thing to think.
Well, and when we follow a model that's proven itself to be poor, and we duplicate it for other industries, then that's bad on us. If we believe that the alcohol model for distribution is bad, we shouldn't duplicate it for marijuana. If we believe that the alcohol testing for impairment at the roadside is bad, then we shouldn't duplicate it for marijuana or any other intoxicant. It's a habit that we have to just do the same thing because it's easier and less expensive than doing the right thing. But as a society, it's time we start doing the right thing. And the right thing means respecting citizens, making sure that their constitutional rights are protected, and that common sense laws rule the day, not fear and lack of intelligence.
I mentioned before that how statistics get skewed, and the guys that are reporting these statistics are the police. I mean, the legislature often asks for these reports to be turned in a formal way through laws. And so there are places on tickets and other places where they have to check off this data with regards to what caused this accident and who caused the accident. It's just a way that the legislature generally uses as a study to determine how they might want to affect future laws. And so this information that you just described, so let's say the officer, detected some marijuana, but nobody was impaired. And then the person goes off and drinks, and then so now they're drunk and high, and then they go off and have an accident and kill somebody or have a serious injury or whatever it is. Even if they don't, they have an accident, period. That's going to get reported as a marijuana-related accident. When it was clearly when they would leave out the entire fact that the cause of the accident was really determined to be alcohol and not cannabis. The fact that they had a metabolite present, they weren't stoned on marijuana, it will get reported as a marijuana-related auto accident. And this is what makes me angry, because when they record incorrect information like this and make it part of the public data toll, when the bean counters go over it and report it back to the legislature goes, aha, you see, we told you, it's you stoners causing these accidents too. And then they react knee-jerk with legislation to respond.
Well, and you see, Steve, this is where we have a double-edged sword. A minute ago, I railed about having a set numerical value determined by chemical content and how it would be bad for us. But here's an example of how that would be good for us, because if we could only prove, if the only numbers they had to talk about statistically speaking, if marijuana was only classified as accidents that where the person had a 0.8 or 0.10, whatever it is, content, then a lot of those things where it's not a factor would be wiped out, where it's not a factor at all. And we'd see a truer number of the number of automobile accidents involving marijuana. But the actuality is that, as you described, every accident where marijuana is detected is blamed on marijuana, even if that was a substance in the minority, or if they had a crazy cocktail of different things in their body.
Or maybe they didn't have it in their body at all, but they found a roach or they found a bag in the car. Nobody was under the influence. Nobody tested positive for marijuana. It would go down as a marijuana-related accident.
Point. Very good. You're right. Yep, it's not just the contents of their bloodstream that's evaluated. It's the content of the automobile, and a lot of those things are blamed on cannabis when it's not even a factor.
It might not have even been them that caused the accident. The accident could have been caused entirely by somebody else's misdeed.
Yep, that's true. We see a lot of times that often people go for the convenience. It's easy to say if, then, but it's difficult to say if, evaluate, and then determine the cause. So if you want to prove a point, and we know statistics can be generated to prove any point that you want to make. That's been clearly pointed out by all sides of the argument in every debate in the last 20 years.
Well, this is a horrible way to draw an analogy, but I would just say, statistically speaking, if you could make the argument that poop was food, if somebody had that point of view that poop could be food, and then you told that person to go collect some food because the community depends upon it, if all they bring back is poop, a lot of people are going to be pissed off, despite the fact that my person might eat it. I'm just saying.
That is an odd analogy, Steve. Yes, it is.
Well, it is. We're eating crap for news. I mean, this is not information. This is bullshit, is what it is.
Well, now that is that's a statement that I can totally get behind too. It disturbs me, Steve. We're in a situation now where we're in America. We have a confidence crisis when it comes to our Congress. People distrust leadership at a rate greater than almost any time in our history.
Well, for good reason.
And for a very good reason. But what we're relying on is a lot of that hate's generated by media stories. And if we believe that the media stories are inaccurate about our subject or about other civil rights subjects, then the media stories are probably inaccurate about other things too. And perhaps there's a lot of dissatisfaction in America, not because things are so terrible, but because the reporting is so skewed as to make us think that things are crappy, when in actuality we could be having a much better time of ourselves if media was just more accurate and reported something that wasn't always a downer every time.
Or at least if the information that was coming forth was revealed by way of its source. I don't mind the information being told. There's nothing wrong with the truth. What they are reporting is the truth. Just reveal the full truth and not just the part that gives you an opinion.
Well, I agree, but when you're looking at you have potentially 30 news stories to cover and you can only cover 3, you are going to choose those 3 based on which ones are going to get you the biggest draw for your crowd, for your customer base, your viewers.
Unless you're NPR.
That's true. And at some of the Canadian stations, too. I love to listen to Canadian news broadcasts because they get into detail.
Well,
they cover it in a
more broad way. Yeah, the devil's in the details, and they tend to point out those details. And they tend to wear the journalistic broad scales more broadly. I mean, they tend to wear that responsibility and utilize it in its full capacity. Unlike a lot of the bloggers, unlike a lot of the opine people, unlike a lot of the slanted news you see on television where there are commercial interests involved.
Very true, very true. You know, I'm a blogger myself, and I don't have any commercial interests involved, but I do still find that I let my opinion be expressed in my blogs, and even when it's presented as a news piece, because in a blog it has less responsibility and credibility as a journalism. It seems. I would say that too many people take that to the extreme. You can let your opinion creep in there occasionally, or you can just be a nonstop opinion machine that just shoots out hate-filled, vile blogs on a daily. And to what purpose? Are you helping society, or are you just making yourself feel good by yelling and screaming all the time?
I want to talk about Responsible Ohio a little bit. Sure. So let's. There's this thing that's been going on this past week with Responsible Ohio. First off, it seems that the big news is that the legislature today, if I'm not mistaken, passed out of the more conservative wing of the Ohio legislature, the House, approving ballot language to be passed on to, I guess, the more liberal wing, the Senate, to approve. in an effort to kind of hijack the entire effort being put on by Responsible Ohio in their attempt to make legal retail and medical marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of an important thing because by the legislature doing this, what they're saying is, no, we don't want any more casino-like legislation being enshrined into our Constitution where winners are described at that location. And I think that's a good thing because I don't think that it's the business of government to be describing who wins and loses in a marketplace at all. I think free market should always be determining that based on the fundamentals of our Constitution federally. Yes?
Yes, it should. And what bothers me is that people say things like, well, these are the guys that put the money into it, so they should be able to reap the benefit afterwards. No. You formulate good law and good policy for the betterment of all citizens, not to gain a business advantage. Perhaps that's a little naive on my part, but Steve, I still believe that in America, it's supposed to be, let every man have a fair shot at it, and the guy with the best plan wins.
Right. Well, that's how it's supposed to be. But this is, you brought up the idea earlier that people have no faith in their Congress. And the reason is because Congress doesn't represent people anymore. They represent business who seems to think constitutionally that they have the same rights as people, which is absolutely insanity to me, Rick.
Oh, it is. And, we had the Congress last year or the year before that declared that corporations have certain rights just like individuals do, and they have to be treated just like individuals are for the purposes of lawsuits and responsibilities. Where are we headed? I'm so excited to be part of a social revolution that's leading us into a good place here. I see a lot of places where we seem to be backsliding.
Well, there needs to be some progressive movement in politics rather than a conservative or Republican or a Democratic liberal movement. There needs to be progressive movement to get past this crap, this lockup that big business seems to have had a stranglehold on with our legislative process federally. And locally, too, right down to the states. This works just in a smaller way on the state level. So, Rick, hang on a second. We're going to break. We'll pick up coming back after this. We'll talk a little bit more about Responsible Ohio and how that reflects on what's happening in Michigan. So we'll come back after the break, pick up with Rick Thompson, editor of the Compassion Chronicles, who happened to make a guest appearance today on the PetPain.com phone lines. Be back with more of that conversation next here on The Full Melt Show. Don't go away.
Getting the full melt.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Alkaline water, herbal remedy, essential oil.
Sacred Elements.
Natural and organic shampoo, lotion, pain cream, bath salt.
Sacred Elements.
Beeswax candles and handmade crafts, canes and walking sticks, artwork, jewelry, and repurposed goods.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dordt Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at denalihealthcaremi.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464.
Get the beach bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in McGrill, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at TravelCannabisCup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at TravelCannabisCup.com.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with max power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
No, honey, I'm good. I could have another, but I probably should not. I got somebody at home. It's been a long night.
Hey, just as a program note, I wanted to remind you that we're going to be broadcasting live from the Navy Pier in Chicago, Illinois, from the Grand Ballroom there. This would be coming up in July, this next month. Just about a full month from now, right about a month from now. Be out there broadcasting live. If you get a chance, go to mycompassioncanicon.com. mycompassioncanicon.com and check it out. If you're out in the Chicago area, we'd love to see you out there. Also, in August of this year, doing the Clio Cannabis Cup in Michigan, broadcasting live from the High Times event out there. Welcoming back to the phone lines on the petpain.com phones, Rick Thompson. Hello, Rick.
Hello, Steve. This is the Pet Pain phone lines. I love it. That's fantastic. I'd never heard that commercial before. A great sounding product.
Oh, well, thanks. I think it's an awesome thing. I love the Pet Pain drops. I can speak for them personally. They saved my cat. I completely believe that the CBD drops saved my cat from a bloody nightmare. Probably a quick death.
That's great. Fantastic. You know, it's just another one of the wonderful mysteries we get to unravel as we re-explore the cannabis plant.
So the thing that we were talking about is impairment and driving, and then we got into the RO thing, the Responsible Ohio thing. And we were going over this idea about Responsible Ohio and the response from the legislature, which seems to be moving forward. It seems like all indicators are pointing to the idea that both the RO initiative and the ban outlawing additions to the Constitution via ballot petition outlining specific winners in a business by the legislature will be on this ballot at the same time. And given that scenario, and the thing that I got to keep saying, because people don't, I think people really need to realize this. First off, this is happening this year. This isn't the 2016 round like we're doing here in Michigan and in a lot of other places. They're waiting for that presidential round because that's when people show up to the polls. These off-year elections, it's really hard to get people to show up, and they're easily skewed by advertising, which is fully available this time of the year, by the way. Because if you did this this time next year, getting advertising is a lot more expensive and harder to find space for because it's been bought up by all the large PACs. Again, this government thing, this big government thing, business being taken over by, or government being taken over by business. They're the ones buying up that ad time, not as a part of the Democratic or Republican Party, but as a PAC, just saying, hey, you got to vote Republican because of this, or you got to vote Democratic because of that. So it's important to realize the environment in which these ballot initiatives sit. It's this year, 2015. And so they are going to use the full advantage of that cheap advertising and its availability to marshal people to the polls. And I would suggest, given those conditions and given the idea that both of these questions will be on the ballot, that both of them will pass. I just see that's what's coming in the tea leaves. There's a big push behind this to get the legalization of marijuana done. I think they've got enough people there to show up and vote for it to get that to happen. Because it's just about how many people they get to show up at the polls. And if they can drive that based on that political advertising, which they clearly can, given the $20 million they got behind it, it's going to get done, Rick. I just think it's going to get done. However, I also think that this petition initiative put forth by the legislature is also going to get done. And if that occurs, people have to realize that ballot drives put forth on the proposed by the legislature, when they're voted on, go into effect immediately. As soon as the vote's counted and the ballot passes, it's in effect right now. The other ones put on by citizens, when you collect those signatures, the law says those initiatives go into effect 30 days after they're voted on. So being that the ban goes into effect first, even though Responsible Ohio got voted in, approved by the voters, that turned out at the polls, probably due to direct pointing from the advertising there, will be negated. They will now have to go around the ban, which the ban outlines how to do. You'd have to run 2 separate ballot petitions again. The first one asking for a waiver to the ban, and the second one then outlining your initiative at a future date, at a second election cycle. So it makes it considerably more expensive. In Responsible Ohio's case, I would say that it would triple their cost to get this done. Would you agree with that analysis?
Well, certainly from the analysis you said, they would be required to do 3 petition drives, one initially this year. Then if your scenario occurred, they would have to do one in 2016 to get their exemption, and then one in 2017 to reassert the citizen support and put that on the ballot. Would that be correct?
Yes, I believe so. And here's the kicker to all of that. Ohioans to end prohibition, who has money, who has backing, who has political organization, they have been certified by the state. They've gone through all those hoops. They have a great plan in place, which is much like the MiLegalize plan. It's a free market plan. It outlines and describes everything in great detail. It's a very responsible plan, and it does, I think, achieve the overall goal, which is keeping people out of jail and creating both of these marketplaces, medically and recreationally, to the satisfaction of a much broader group of people where there is no monopoly involved, and the free market does have a lot more rule. Those guys are putting their petition on 2016. If the the scenario we just proposed moments ago takes place, they'll be side by side. OTEP will be already there, occupying that space with a petition drive to legalize. What makes it good for Responsible Ohio then to start asking for permission to go around the ban in that cycle? It wouldn't make a lot of sense, I don't think, because they would have to wait till the following year to get theirs done. And reasonably, it would be easy to expect that OTEP would be successful in the same campaign, because I think whoever gets to the ballot drive first wins. Even though if it's Responsible Ohio this year and they get thwarted by the legislature.
That is a very twisted set of potentials there. But again, very, very possible. It's not unlikely that you could have what you just described. What I think, though, is more likely, though, is that if RO gets stymied by that result in November 2015, they don't bother going back to Ohio to petition and spend money for 2 years in a row to maybe get something. They just go ahead and do an all-out blitz in Michigan and decide that in November of 2016 they can get everything they want right here.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is that if the entire scenario that we just portrayed takes place in reality, tit for tat, just like we described, then it would, instead of Responsible Ohio putting their go around the legislature in Ohio routine, they could pivot and run to Michigan and do the same thing in Michigan without that resistance legislatively.
Well, and if as some of us suspect, the MRC, the Michigan Resource Commission, or Michigan Resource Council, whatever they call themselves, and the Responsible Ohio groups are actually one and the same, or are skippered by similar people, then it looks as if that would be a natural evolution. They would go, failure in Ohio, move on to Michigan. We've heard the MRC would potentially delay any significant signature collecting action until they saw what happened in Ohio. So that's possible. I mean, it's not out of the realm.
So being that MRC hasn't announced themselves even as a ballot committee yet, or people that are trying to do a petition drive, they're just like a political action group at this point, aren't they?
They are, but we've had private conversations between MiLegalize and some folks in the know, and it looks like they're maybe 1 to 1.5 months away from introducing their language publicly. And these people are cross the T's and dot the I's kind of guys. They can afford to spend money to get the very best to make sure everything's done properly. So you have to imagine that anything they produce after this kind of time is going to be a very tight document.
So it would be very interesting to see if that took place, but they would be up against the MiLegalize group, the group that you are a board member of. Yes, Rick? They would be up against that because there's a big kickoff happening, isn't there, for gathering signatures here?
Yep, we're going to kick off tomorrow, in fact, at the state capitol in Lansing, Michigan, at 1 o'clock on the steps with some speeches and petition training and revving up the power base that we have here. But it's entirely possible, Steve, that we could collect our signatures here as Michigan Legalize and be done with our drive before the MRC even begins theirs. So we may not be competing for signatures directly, but eventually we'll be competing in the minds of the citizens. In Michigan, you could vote for two separate initiatives, even though they sought to accomplish the same thing. So as long as we're not trying to discourage people from doing one thing and just encourage them to do our initiative, I think we'll be successful.
I think there's a lot to chew on there. I think that just looking into this as we described it, I think if indeed these guys end up pivoting from Ohio, they'd be up right next to during the same election cycle in 2016, the MiLegalize thing. Say, listen, Rick, I want to take a break here, and then let's talk about what's going on tomorrow in a little greater detail about what's happening with the kickoff campaign in Lansing tomorrow, where people will be, what the details of the event are, the time, all that kind of stuff. We'll come back with more of that, the MiLegalize kickoff happening in Lansing tomorrow. That subject next on The Full Melt Show. Don't go away.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Alkaline water, herbal remedy, essential oil.
Sacred Elements.
Natural and organic shampoo, lotion, pain cream, bath salt.
Sacred Elements.
Beeswax candles and handmade crafts, canes and walking sticks, artwork, jewelry, and repurposed goods.
Sacred Elements. next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dordt Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570. It's the Full Melt Radio Show. Say, incidentally, it's really easy to subscribe to us on iTunes. Go to thefullmelt.com and click on the iTunes link to subscribe. Welcoming back to the petfane.com phone lines, Rick Thompson. Hello, Rick.
Your call has ended.
Oh, no! Oh, Rick, what happened there? We lost the Rick Thompson. I'm sure he'll call back. So much for that. Hang on a second. I'm trying to release that line now. It's giving me a hard time. There we go. So, I'm hoping Rick does call back because he's got all the details. But I think this is happening, if I'm not mistaken, according to a Facebook post I saw earlier, if memory serves, on the Capitol steps in Lansing tomorrow afternoon in Michigan at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock is when everybody's getting together. The event itself is described as between 1 and 5 p.m. So I plan on being out there myself. I'm going out with another friend. My good friend Brian Cash and I are going to ride out there and see what's going on. We'll be reporting for the show. I'll try and get some live audio and then bring it back here in time to get it on right here at the Canlock Studios. So, boy, what happened to Rick? I hope his battery didn't die because what a bummer that would be. I was going to ask him when I got him on the phone if he saw the big news about Lego because Lego is been announcing today that they are ending their relationship with Shell Oil, which they actually did back in November of last year, to the tune of $50 million a year. Those guys make 2 billion Lego parts a year. 2 billion with a B. That's a lot of plastic floating around, and I guess they're trying to be more green and find a green solution, and I would suggest that hemp might be that answer. That you can make biodegradable plastics that are very friendly to the environment using hemp products, and I think our good friends at the Michigan Hemp Company might be interested in maybe, I hope they would be. It seems like they would have a good reason to get involved with taking a bite out of the $2 billion that maybe it's $1 billion. Is it $1 billion? It might be $1 billion. It might be $1 billion. They're going to spend $1 billion at Lego over there in, what is it? It's not Swiss. It's not the Netherlands. They're in Dutch territory over there. So they're over there. That's where their headquarters are at. But they make all these parts, and I think it would be tremendous if they could find a way to study this over the next couple of years. Looks like Rick's back. Hello, Rick. Are you there? Oh, no, what happened? Oh, good Lord. See, I don't know what's going on there. There's got to be something happening with his phone. Try us back, Rick, if you're listening. Give us a ring back. We got time to take you because I really wanted to talk a little bit more about what's happening with the rally we're going to tomorrow at 1 o'clock in Lansing. But I thought that would be pretty cool if the guys at Lego, who are spending $1 billion to convert this existing industry that revolves around petrochemicals that are not very friendly to the environment, that's a lot of parts every year, 2 billion. You can imagine how many years of parts have built up, and then where are those going? A lot of plastics in the ocean causing problems. We'll see if we can get this again. Rick Thompson, are you there?
I am, Steve. I'm here.
Hey, we lost you. I came to you after the break, and he goes, your call has ended. I was like, don't.
No, I had some connectivity issues. We were going to talk about the MiLegalize kickoff tomorrow, and I know that you're short on time.
No, that's perfectly it. I mentioned that I'm going out there. It's from 1 until 5 tomorrow at the Capitol steps. That's where everybody's converging, yes?
It sure is. We're going to be doing petition signature collection training for leaders or from around the state and for everybody that wants to collect signatures. We're also getting people to sign the petitions. There'll be an opportunity where folks have their picture taken with stuff. It's going to be very good. I hope everybody comes out.
Look, I think it's going to be an awesome kickoff. There hasn't been an ass-kick-and-drive out there in Lansing for quite some time. I think people are itching for it. I think the weather is perfect for it. I think that it's been announced long enough that people from upstate can come down for this. The only question is, are there splinter groups that are going to try and divide? That's my question.
Well, I hope there's not. However, we're open to talking to any group about any issue that they want. We would just hope that everyone would conduct those conversations in an adult way and not necessarily in a way that distracts from the purpose that which we've gathered. no one should be disruptive. If you're trying to seek information, let's do that in a positive way.
Right, I think you're right. I think it's going to be an exciting thing. I think it'll be memorable. I intend to bring my digital SLR camera.
Excellent. I will tell you this, Representative Jeff Irwin will kick off the speeches. We're going to have a LEAP speaker. You may not have been familiar with this gentleman. His name is Steve Miller. He's a retired Novi police officer, and he's the newest LEAP speaker for the Michigan region.
Really?
So he'll be speaking too. He's been on my, the other radio show that I do, the Planet Green Trees program. He's been on there a couple times. Sharp guy, nice guy.
So they've already made the music band joke. They've done that one already, because I was gonna fire one off. But
we have flown like an eagle, and we've done Wild Mountain Honey and all kinds of stuff. So.
Oh, that's a good thing. You know, how could you look, if you're opening the door, I'm going to walk through on a joke. I'm just telling you.
That's true, Steve. Here's one more thing our listeners should know. This is the last day that the legislature will be in session before they break for summer recess. So we expect that there's always media there on that particular day. People are speechifying and discussing their summer plans, and they want the hometown media to know where their coffee shop hours are going to be. So it's very possible we'll have good media coverage for this, since they'll already be at the building. So it should be a fantastic.
Didn't the House leave earlier? Wasn't it the Senate that stuck around? Who stuck around? The Senate stuck around for an extra couple of weeks or something? Didn't the House leave before the Senate did?
Well, the House is still meeting, and they're having session tomorrow.
Oh, maybe it's the Senate that left.
I beg your pardon?
Maybe it's the Senate that left.
Could be. I know that they talked about, and I just wrote an article today that includes quotes from Robin Snyder, legislative liaison from NPRA, that says that they're going to have a special session of the legislature in July and potentially an additional special session in August. Those are months typically the legislators don't work because they have just that kind of wonderful schedule.
It makes perfect sense now, because I was watching Off the Record with Tim Skubic and his panel of people over there on public television, and Chuck Stokes was on the panel, and he corrected one of the guys that said the Michigan legislature, or I think he said the Senate, has gone on vacation. He's like, no. They're doing home office duty to be called back at any time. And so it makes a lot of sense that that's how they couched it, I guess, because that is what they're doing. They're really kind of in a longer session, just doing some coffee hours, which I think are important when you talk to constituents. I just wish that the coffee hours were actually represented come toe line when they got to vote that conscience. They got to vote, and their voting conscience, they're usually voting for the people that keep them in office, and those aren't necessarily the voters. I mean, they need both the voters and the money. I think they end up voting money more often than they do voters.
I think that's true, and it sort of defeats the purpose of having a town hall meetings if you're not going to respect what's being told to you in those town halls. Now, I can fully appreciate a legislator's perspective in that they have more information available to them than the average voter does, and they can see a picture that's larger because that is their job, and they're focused on that completely. But at some point, you have to be responsible to the people that put you in office. And you're right. Unfortunately, they win office because of the successful fundraisers they've had during the course of the year, not necessarily because the positions they espouse are ones that are shared by their constituents.
Well, it's just funny because it seems a lot of times the voters, the constituents, have one opinion, and the money, the thing that gets them actually elected to get a vote, are different opinions. They're completely pointing in opposite directions, and that's the problem with the corrupt government, in my opinion. Listen, lobbyists. Right. It's awful. We've got to root out money out of the political process. If we don't, we're only going to get what we've got and more of it, a lot more of it, which is big government, big business, and no people stuff. Nothing for people. I wanted to ask you, what is the thing going on tomorrow with regard? So first there's some speakers, right? And then you said there's some training. Is the training taking place at the same place the speaking is? And is this if that's the place, isn't that the Capitol lawn?
Absolutely. We're going to set up some tents on the Capitol lawn right there where you can hear the speeches going on, so people can sign the petition. They can get out of the sun and do it in a pleasant, private atmosphere. But we'll also be training some of the people that we're going to give petitions to go out and train others so that they can properly and correctly collect signatures across the state.
It's important.
Election law is tricky, and you have to be trained by an expert. You cannot apply logic to a collection of petition signature because the government's been involved, so that logic is out of the picture.
If it makes common sense, it's not going to work, in other words.
But the reasons that they have for the things that they do are solid once the reasons are explained to you. But if you just picked up a petition, you may not understand why there are certain rules. So having it explained in a way as this and therefore because that's a way that people can appreciate, and then they can teach others that way too. So we'd like to encourage anyone that wants to collect petition signatures for MiLegalize across the state to come down tomorrow and get trained properly. If you can't...
Go ahead. It sounds like we got you drowned out. Let me just tell you, I got to thank Rick Thompson, for the editor of the CompassionChronicles.com, for joining us on the program. Hopefully you can see him if you're in Michigan and want to be part of the MiLegalize team. Get down and get trained and get pumped up by the speakers happening on the Capitol lawn in Lansing tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.